medication here. So I was in the emergency room last night. I wound up getting prescribed muscle relaxers and narcotics for my shoulder. And so I was like, oh, let's just do a live feed in some manner of, I don't know. Let me see here. Got to shut up the chat. All messages. You know what? I don't understand. This is something I don't understand about YouTube, is why do they offer you the option to only show crowdfunding or fan funding? I don't know. And no, I don't know whether Pittsburgh won last night because, well, the game was on while I was in the waiting room at the emergency room, and it was 22-13 or something, I think, at halftime. It was like right at halftime, and I got called back, and I didn't see the rest of the game. It's the first I've watched any football in a very long time, and it was minimal, just a few minutes. But how's the audio, by the way? I didn't check and make sure I got the microphone set up properly because, well, I'm on narcotics and muscle relaxers. So they didn't play around. When I went to the emergency room this time, the doctor was like, wow, there is something seriously wrong with your shoulder. And I was like, he's like, are you having pain here? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you're in a lot of pain. And they were like, the doctor was like, yeah, we're going to give you a shot. So we picked up my car here just a few minutes ago because I got a shot of Demerol, and they sent me home with Percocet. It's my whole arm. It's my whole arm. I have to get an MRI. The doctor's like, you're probably going to need surgery. He's like, there's something seriously wrong. So right now, I mean, does it hurt? Yeah, but I took a Percocet. So does it hurt? Probably. But do I care? Probably not. And the Demerol. So I woke up, my buddy came and picked me up, and I went and picked my car up before I took any of my medication. So yeah, it's been pretty bad. Oh, hey, look at this. We'll just go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and take care of that. So I recently got something in that is mine now. It was a gift. It was a gift from one of my paying members, and I have both versions of it. If you guys haven't seen the video of this, I don't know if there's a way to link a video in a live feed, but I had this here. This is the Django by KATSU Knives. And it's a really, really good knife. It really is a very good knife. I didn't get to use it much because I was told that he wanted it to be just pristine. But this was a gift to me, and this is the Django XL. And what I started thinking about was, does the aesthetics of a knife, because I got news for you, it really doesn't matter. Do I like this knife more because of the way it looks? Yes, I absolutely do. It's got a pop of color. It's got a Damascus pivot collar. It's got this beautiful blade. It's got the nice diamond checkering on the handle. But does it really affect the knife? Well, yes and no. There are some things in the aesthetics of a knife. There's some things in the aesthetics of a knife that actually do have a function, like the blade shape. I love this blade shape. This blade shape is super, super functional, right? It's not just that that blade looks really cool, which it does. It looks aggressive. It looks like a Bowie knife, stuff like that. Does that affect the functionality? Yeah. That blade shape, actually, I can use this for a lot of stuff. See how I can get up on this? If you're an outdoorsman, as obviously I look like a lumberjack, this is something that you can use to get around and skin a small... If you were in the field and you had this in your pocket, if you were hunting or something like that, you could use this for small game, possibly a deer, because it's got a very, very versatile blade. You know what? Let me pull this down here a little bit. Let me make sure. Did you guys lose audio? It just feels like I'm in a weird angle. It's because I'm... So, but this is a very, very comfortable knife. So aesthetically, yes, that blade is beautiful, but it's really functional. I have a lot of belly right here, right? I got belly. Half of the knife is belly, half of the knife is flat, which is kind of the best of both worlds. If you get a 50-50 like this, where you got all the belly up front that you want, if you want to get up on it and you want to skin out an animal or something like that, but you still can do tasks back here where you're going to do some heavy cutting, because if you try to cut like this with a knife that has this very distinct belly, it slips off the material. Guys, please drop a like. I currently, even if I wasn't laid off, couldn't work, and it's going to bring more people, and then they'll see the other videos. So yeah, I did a video about this because this is the large version, right? They didn't change the pocket clip for this model. Pocket clip's exactly the same. Pocket clip's exactly the same. They offer, it comes with a bent wire clip that you can put out on it. But it is absolutely the exact same pocket clip. How many knives do I have? Probably 500, 600. It comes with both. You can swap them out. It's out on my workbench. On this, I wouldn't do that. This is a really good pocket clip. If I shave with this? Yes, this knife I absolutely could shave with because this has got a very, very good edge, very thin behind the edge. Do I have other knives? So another knife here, aesthetics. Was this finally some good American content? I feel brain rot setting in when I scroll through these foreign content. I'm tired of the AI content. I'm gonna tell you that right now. And if you haven't, please drop a like. The aesthetics on this. Does that affect anything the way it looks? No. But what it does do is that is all carbon fiber, and it removes a ton of weight on an integral that would otherwise be a very heavy knife. Oh, yeah, I can't sit like that. It's starting to hurt my shoulder. Let me bring you guys in closer so that I can sit back and not lean forward and put pressure on that shoulder. I can't do a lot with this arm right now. The narcotics are absolutely helping, but you know, you can only do so much, and then they start to wear off. At any rate, that carbon fiber overlay on an integral absolutely does have a functional use. It reduces the weight, and it still gives you a very good feel in hand. It fills in that area, but they've removed enough titanium that makes this the lightest integral I've ever seen. It's held in one spot. It's really, really well done. So have I ever tested a Spidey buoy? Are you talking about the Sleesh buoy? Yes, I have, and I hated it. And Nick Shabazz is a really good friend of mine, and that is one we always argue about. Is I told him they would never have been able to sell a single Sleesh buoy if he had not done that video. Yeah, it's screwed up. The doctor was like, your primary care didn't like. He was feeling around. He's like, all right, move it. And he goes, oh, you got all kinds of stuff crunching in that shoulder. He's like, there's something wrong. And he's like, we're going to get you taken care of. So they gave me a shot. They sent me home with a bunch of medication. They sent me home with prednisone. So you're going to see me gain some weight over the course of the next few weeks because prednisone does make you gain a lot of weight. I'm going to start doing long walks with a dog and stuff. But at any rate, so that, even though that, and what you can do is you can use these elements to add aesthetics to the knife, but still have the ER docs. I'm going to tell you the ER docs at Balboa Naval Medical Center are probably the best docs in San Diego. Like, they're better than our primary care. And I hate going to the emergency room, but still. At any rate, you can use this as an aesthetic feel, like you can add color and you can add an aesthetic to a knife and make it more attractive and still get the functionality of it because, like I said, the carbon fiber acts as a weight reduction. You get the same stability, the same strength with less weight, and so they use that overlay. So now what you have is something that looks amazing and it reduces the weight and it makes it more comfortable. I don't know what it is about like carbon fiber and some of the other composites. They just feel good in hand. Like I really don't know what it is. They just have a good feel. I don't like some of the over-the-top stuff like Timascus and stuff like that, but something like this where it gives it an overall aesthetic, it reminds me of the 1970s jungle pattern camo that the military used. So it's really, really cool. So some of those elements can definitely be functional and attractive. Same with this patterning. I made Japanese style straight razors. I've made 2 or 3 Japanese style straight razors when I was still a knife maker. My buddy Nico has one. He has the one that came out good. When I say this, I made 3 or 4 that were test pieces and they didn't come out the way I wanted. The one that came out great, I used for a while. Obviously, I don't shave that often anymore, but I made one and I gave it to my little buddy Nico. So Nico has a handmade Japanese style hollow bevel on one side, flat on the other, like chiseled hollow straight razor. So yes, I sharpened straight razors for customers for years. So at any rate, what I was getting at, so these knives, these two knives here, right? They have this patterning on them. Let me see. Can I bring you in closer? Let me bring you in closer. No, I'm like, why can't I see what I'm doing? Because I'm not wearing my reading glasses. So this knife has got a very distinct diamond pattern on the handles, and it is very attractive. It's really, really attractive. I was in the emergency room till I don't know what time I got back. Shot a Demerol. I just didn't. I didn't have much brain functioning by the time I got home after we got back. So at any rate, that patterning is not just for aesthetics. This is an all titanium handle. It gives you some tactility and a little bit of grip. It's not over the top, but it definitely takes what could be a slick knife. I did it in a video here recently. I talked about a knife being slick. It takes a, I don't know what my dog is doing over there. He's grabbing his nose with his paws. I think he's got something that he's playing with. At any rate, so that gives you some tactility. It's not aggressive. It doesn't tear up your pockets. The doctor's visit was great. I got a shot of Demerol, and I was just basically loopy, and I had to have somebody come pick me up from the emergency room, and I had to go back this morning and pick up my car. But that gives you some grip, right? That gives you a grip that you can hold on to. If your hands are a little bit sweaty, it gives you a little bit of extra. Sometimes, as much as I brought this out for a reason, as much as I love this little slip joint, if your hands are wet, this one's not bad because it's bone, so it is kind of porous. It's polished bone, but it's still porous. But if your hands are really wet, this knife can be slippery. This doesn't feel anywhere near as slippery. Same thing with this. Now, that is very, very attractive. That's very, very attractive. It is an attractive patterning, but just like the last knife, it's not just there for aesthetics. This is an aluminum handle on this Microtech amphibian. This is a great, great knife. You're gonna see a video. We're gonna do a video about like the best crossbar locks out there. So this is, well, hello to you, Roblox, mister. So the patterning on this absolutely serves a function. It makes this aluminum handle that would otherwise be slick way easier to maintain hold and keep from getting slippery. The patterning on the lock mechanism, while it is done in their X fashion, it looks attractive and things like that, still serves a purpose. It's jimping. So if you can, here, let me turn you around. You can see that. That's cut down in, and it's very, very functional. And all of this is functional grip that's added. Even this on the pocket clip allows you to reach in and grab it out of your pocket. You can also grab on these. It gives you a little bit of extra grip. So you don't need to see the umbrella tree. So you turn this around. God, what's a good full tang everyday carry knife? I made a knife called the Sea Snake. It's available on Amazon. It's Artisan Cutlery Sea Snake. It is a full tang knife that is smaller than most folding knives. You can carry it around your neck. You can get soft loose, put it on your belt. It's all full tang. I don't have one here. I'm not going to go get it because I really don't want to go. Get up. Ben. Yeah, Ben, how many times are you going to say hi? Okay. I'm not going to have you spam in my chat. But yeah, this is a great, great knife. And that all of that's on there is functional. Now, is it attractive? Yeah, look at the stepped milling on this. But you know what? That gives you traction on that thumb disc, on that thumb plate, so that it's not slick. Did I get the power issue taken care of in the studio? Yes, it was a bad breaker. So we basically just had for 40 minutes when the handyman came out. So the power for the garage that runs everything in the garage was off. With the exception of one thing, and it was weird, it was on a different circuit. The actual controller for the garage door is apparently tied to a different circuit, or it has a battery backup because the light on the garage door opener never went out. But nothing else in the studio worked. None of the lights, nothing. Only stuff out there that had batteries worked. So I could have used my studio lights and my, my battery bank, but that doesn't run the overhead lights that get rid of the overlaying shadows. At any rate, so the milling on that thumb disc, it's attractive, but it serves a purpose. I can get on that. It gives me grip, right? Crab with a knife. I just answered that question. What kind of lock do I like best? You know what? I actually do have to go out to studio. Let me go grab my sea snake. And I forgot a knife. I forgot a knife or two that I wanted to grab. But that happens. Like I said, I'm on narcotics. I'll be right back. Let me go grab that. So you might still be able to hear me all the way out to the studio. And I didn't do it in the studio because, well, I didn't want to clean off my workbench. So let's grab this one, and I'm trying to find my sea snake. Grab two of them. I grabbed two full tang. Well, I'm not going back out there again. That's it. Somebody asked what my favorite lock is. We'll get to, I will answer that. My favorite lock is either a frame lock, a really good, I think I like a frame lock, a good crossbar lock like this one. I think this is up there. This is the Ram lock by Microcheck. It's up there with my, with some of my favorites, is the Ram lock. But it's basically a crossbar lock. It's not really any different than this one, except how the springs are done. Compression lock. I think right now my favorite lock is the compression lock or the Axis lock. The Triad lock from Cold Steel. They are great. I have a couple of these knives like this that have the compression lock. This is the Military 2. This is the PM2. Great knives. But that would, I'd have to say, just sub now. What's this channel about? It's all about knives. It's all about knives. That's all I do. So at any rate, we're talking about, so like that patterning is, it's attractive, it's eye-catching, but it's still functional. It lets you have a knife that would be otherwise kind of slippery in hand to have a little bit of grip, and it just gives it a pop. The coloration that you can do on aluminum oxide for this hard coat on these aluminum handles is great. Do I consider Benchmade's absolutely overpriced? I will never own another Benchmade. So other things on knives that can be attractive but still add a function. A lot of people see this, all this milling. The dog is right under my feet to my left. In case you guys have never tuned in, we do get an occasional visit from my 100+ pound golden retriever, who is my service dog. He here, let's see. Are you gonna come up here? Come here. Hi, bud. Hi, bud. Look at that big old head. Hi, buddy. He's pawing at me because he knows I'm in pain. At any rate, things that also are functional. He's climbing up on me. Let me turn this so you guys can see. He's climbing up on me. Hi. Hi. You feel left out of the conversation? Do you feel left out of the conversation? Huh? Do you? Feel left out? Love you, buddy. Love you, buddy. He's going to climb up behind me. He's not a baby. He's only about a year or so old, but other things that are attractive elements on a knife but are still functional are these fullers and blade windows, apertures that you would see on these. They serve a couple purposes. In Japanese swords, they're called a bohi. It's called a fuller. It's a removal of material. Now, does it add an attractive look to the knife? Yes, it does. I love a fuller that goes all the way to the edge and then the swedge cuts through it and it gives it that unique look. You get all kinds of facets, but it absolutely, buddy, you can't crawl up under me. You absolutely get a weight reduction from this. You get a weight reduction from the window or the hole. But the fact is, on a knife like this, if you look, there's no flipper tab. There's no other element. that is how you open up your knife. You put your finger in it, reverse flick. That's one of the best ways. Spyderco's have got the hole in it. It does weight reduction. The way they do it adds another element. Now on Spyderco's are ugly. There's not much attractive on their knives, in my opinion. I love them, but they're not that attractive. But that hole that they've added gives you some weight reduction, and it gives you a great way to deploy the knife. Oops, I missed it. Great way to deploy the knife because you can reverse flick, you can stick your thumb in it and roll it out. Like I said, you can Spidey flick it like that. But, oh, I'm sorry, buddy, if I got stuff in your way. I put stuff on his side of the couch. I'm sorry. There you go. Oh, fuck, I should have used the other arm. Yeah, your box of toys is up there. He's going to get a squeaky toy. But with that, you also wind up with a spot that adds to the grip. It adds to the grip. Now it's my dog. It's just the biggest golden retriever I've ever seen in my life. It gives you a spot that you can put your thumb on and you can bear down on it. And then when you get it pinched in there like that on these knives, it's great. It's great. It gives you that forward pressure that you can get on it and really power into the grip. And then handle materials. Handle materials can be attractive. I love micarta. I find micarta to be really, really attractive. I don't know. I'm not in the UK. I wouldn't be in the UK. Apparently, Sharia law is legal in the UK, so I don't know why a knife wouldn't be. But, you know, hey, color me weird. The materials that you can make the handles out of absolutely can be attractive and still be something functional because micarta is a natural material that's bound with epoxy. And so you still have these natural fibers on the surface that will absorb, even though they're bound with epoxy, they will absorb some moisture and swell up. So, oh, I forgot. I went and got these. See, I'm on narcotics. That makes me forget. This is the knife I designed. This is, somebody was asking about a full tang everyday carry. This is a great, great little knife that I designed. I made some custom versions of it. This is a full tang. These scales come off. You could change them out if you wanted to make new ones as long as it still fit the sheath. Chunk, please stop, bud. I can't play with you and do this. He's such a goofball. Look at this. Look at this. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? We played already this morning. We played when we went to go pick my car up. Would you stop? Cats will love you until your last breath, and then they will eat you. So at any rate, this is a nice full tang knife that I designed. I made a bunch of customs. This one is in Warrenclyffe. There's a folding version of this that's going to be a drop point that's coming out soon. But this, if you were to look, is smaller than a lot of the folding knives that I carry. Significantly smaller. It's a nice little everyday carry EDC fixed blade. These are available on Amazon. I'm from Ohio, but I'm in California. I'm in SoCal. So at any rate, yeah, this is, where did I put the sheath for this? God, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do this when I'm on prescription meds. But what else? Sorry, I can't really film right now because I can't. There's a drop point folding version coming, and it's not going to be the $35 that this one is. But at any rate, nice little fixed blade. You can carry it on a chain around your neck, but I bought soft loops. These don't come with it, but you can buy soft loops if you want, and you can carry that on your belt. That's not a ricasso. That is because this knife was designed by me for a specific purpose that allows you to get further up on the blade and hold it like that. Because it's small and I wear XXL gloves, I made it so that if you wanted to use it this way, you could, but you could also use it in my preferred method, which allows me to get way up on it, and I've got perfect control of the blade, because working construction, you want, especially wearing gloves and things like that, you want to have the most grip possible. So I love sharpening choil or finger choils on knives. It gives you an option. All of my knives that I designed had a forward choil. It's not a requirement, but I just find them to give you an extra element of use. And people are like, well, then the cardboard cuts on. I was like, if you are the kind of person that can't determine where the beginning of your blade is when you're getting ready to cut cardboard, maybe you don't need a knife. So they go, well, I can't use it when I'm cutting cardboard because the cardboard always catches back here. I was like, so start here. If you know that that part's not sharp, start your cut here. But if it snags, what I'm saying is if it snags, how are you, like, I've only had a couple knives that posed that problem, and typically it was because it was a very swept blade at a weird angle where the blade was at an upward angle. And it just, once I got used to it, I didn't do it anymore. If you get up in the, as designed, up in it so you can get better grip, it's fine. Another great knife that has got really some aesthetic elements. This is the L'Ascension by Acheron Knives, designed by Bastian over at Bastinelli Knives. This is a great full tang everyday carry knife. If you can find them, they are hard to find because they are a discontinued item. And I put a ulti-clip on this so I can carry it in my pocket. I have two of these. I do from time to time put one on here. I'll take the soft loops off and put this and carry it in my pocket. So, but aesthetic elements on this that wind up being very, very functional. A lot of people find these attractive. It's called jimping on the back of a knife and on the heel of the knife, but they serve a purpose. I can put my thumb on that and I don't have to worry about slipping or sliding forward, and it allows me to have better control of the knife. This is a very small knife. I like the fact that the jimping goes basically the full length of the knife. You got a one-sided, only if you're watching AVE. Jury rig John. If you're watching Bolter AVE, yes. He does use a small mini chainsaw to open boxes. But this is a great little knife to carry in your pocket for everyday carry. Everyday carry, full tang fixed blade. And like I said, small package. Who was the guy that I kicked out? You know who you are. If I kicked you out, it's because you had a small package. But you can see full size of this knife, fixed blade, significantly smaller than what I typically carry in my pocket. This is basically my everyday carry. This is the best knife I've ever owned. This is my favorite knife I've ever owned. And we're going to come back to it. Other things that could be considered aesthetic but truly wind up being functional. Some companies have started doing this. See how the backspacer on this is the same material as the handle, and so is the thumb stud. This is the petrified fish havrog, right? Well, that is aesthetic. I love the fact that the micarta that they used for the handles is the same material that they used for the thumb studs and the backspacer. Let me see here. I'll turn this around. Maybe you can get a better view of it this way. Not really. The lighting is weird. I'm using natural lighting. I don't have any lights out here. So you can see the material in the thumb stud is the same material as the handles and the backspacer. Well, that's really attractive. I dig it. I love that look. I love how those thumb studs are made of that material. It gives them an aesthetic, and I'd never seen it on a knife like that before. They're in a really good position. But it also, did you drop something, bud? What are you trying to get? It actually serves a purpose to do it like that. It's not just attractive. That material is a lot cheaper than the titanium or steel that they would have used to make those parts out of in other knives. And it makes it lighter. All the knives that I have that have the same material as for the backspacer, handle, and thumb studs, like this and a couple others, are lighter than the other knives. It's a lot like this knife, where it winds up being lighter, strictly because it's less material that's heavy. The heavy material's been replaced. Where was I? Back to jimping. A lot of people like and think jimping is attractive. I personally don't like jimping. I don't find it to be an attractive feature, but a lot of people do, but it serves that purpose. Like I said, you get up on it and think like you can hold it. I was thinking about getting a spew a while ago. I've never seen it. Oh, 5 E. I'm glad you love the channel, but I do have to tell you, our vacuum cleaner quit working, and I didn't have the money to fix it, so I just went and bought a cowboy sticker, Dallas Cowboy sticker, and I stuck it on it, and guess what? It started sucking again. Amazing thing, just amazing. I know you were talking. I'm just saying, like, yeah. Other things on knives that are, I brought out a bunch of stuff intentionally, and I'm at a loss for what I was going to do. Yeah, here we go. More patterning on this, but as you can see how the patterning on the pocket clip follows? Not only is that an aesthetic thing, guess what? That makes this pocket clip one of the best pocket clips I've got because it allows you to tension it and it gives it that springiness. It's a very, very springy clip. And it's great. And this is a knife that for those of you that don't like sharpening choils or finger choils, this one's great. It's got the best of both worlds. You've got a spot for your finger, but it terminates up here. And this thing is a great, great knife. This is the PMP Aries, right? PMP Aries, great, great knife. And it's a nice titanium frame lock, S90V steel, all of that. But there's elements on this knife that look really cool that are functional, like the jimping that runs down through here. Like I said, we've already talked about that jimping being functional. That is your deployment method on this knife, right? That's your deployment method. You've got external stop pins, which means that you can adjust this easier than other knives. But one of the other elements on this, it's got this weird look to it back here, right? Where you can get your thumb on it. But that's a glass breaker. It's a good glass breaker. No, they beat the Jets. I think they beat the Jets, like, somebody said it was like 35-16, because it was 22-16 or something when I watched it. When I got called in from the waiting room, it was like halftime. Thumb studs do not get in the way of the sharpening typically. None of the knives I've shown you I've never had an issue with the sharpening because I don't use a fixtured system, I freehand sharpen. So it was, these are far enough out of the way that they're not going to touch your stone. If you're using a fixtured system, yes, they probably would be in the way. On this, those aren't thumb studs, those are stop pins. And the way I sharpen, they don't get in the way. As a matter of fact, I've sharpened this knife a few times. I need to start carrying this again. What they say about the shoulder? My shoulder's fucked. I'm probably going to have surgery. They put me in for physical therapy. They gave me a bunch of narcotics. They gave me a bunch more muscle relaxers. They put me on anti-inflammatory steroids to try and get the pain down, which is working because I'm having minimal pain today. But I am also coming off the fact that they gave me a shot of Demerol last night, and I got home and I texted Scab from Choir Boys Cutlery like 30 times when it was like 2 o'clock in the morning for him, and I don't remember it. I don't remember coming home. My buddy came and picked me up, gave me a ride home. My daughter took me this morning to my buddy's house on her way to, and then brought the car back for my wife, and then my buddy took me back. So well, hello, Skankho. Goodbye, Skankho. Two can play at that game. And a hooker. What do I think? Let's see here. I'm going back through you guys' comments, by the way. What do you think of a Tonto blade compared to a typical curve? If you've noticed anything, I don't have Tontos. I don't like them. I don't find them as useful. I find that they get dull in specific points. They're harder to sharpen for the average person. So typically Tontos aren't my bag. I have a couple, but I don't carry them anywhere near as often. Now I do have my Grimsmo Norseman, which is a Tonto. It's a recurve Tonto. We're going to talk about this knife. This is a very, very functional Tonto because I don't use it. Yeah, I still can't feel my hand as much. Hopefully that steroid is going to lower the inflammation. So if you guys don't know, I've had 3 or 4 shoulder surgeries on this shoulder. Well, I like the Steelers, yes. When I was a kid, they were my favorite team. I have this hat because this hat was a gift from a very, very good family friend in Ohio. And so this is a hat that is, I've had it for a long time. It's just something that I keep. I have another Pittsburgh. Actually, this is the one my wife and daughter got me. I have the other one in the garage. It's just easy to shop for me. I like Pittsburgh Steelers stuff because I've always been a fan. At any rate, so this knife has a very, very functional type of Tonto. It's a recurve Tonto, and I don't use this the way most people would use a Tonto. This winds up being something that I go up and I can push in and cut and things like that. And then this winds up being the heavy cutting edge. And this does not get the use like you would see a cold steel like Voyager Tonto would get. This is a little bit different. I have not gotten to see the Max Ace Pre-Dreeny S. I don't know what that is. But yeah, that's absolutely, this is probably, these two are my 2 favorite knives in the world. I'm looking down the barrel of a full shoulder replacement on this one. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things we were talking about. Peregrine. I haven't seen it. I used to hunt. I don't anymore. I can't hold a gun right now. I don't have a collarbone out past here. At any rate, elements of a knife that are functional. We've gotten off track and people are leaving because I've gotten off the track of the knife. Elements of the knife that are attractive that still do serve a purpose. We're going to talk about this. So all of this grinding you see on this. So this has, and the actual blade shape itself. So this has a very, very specific, you know what I need to do? I need to put this in Do Not Disturb. Give me just a second. I need to, all right. Sorry, we're looking at this. And you know what? I just realized that we're going to have a problem. I don't think you guys are getting the proper audio. Hang on a second. Let me pull this out. You guys aren't getting the proper audio because I'm not power. Let me see here. I just got a notification that my phone was almost dead, which means that this is not charging, which means, well, I have wireless microphones that should be working, and if I'm not getting power to this, that means that does it sound better now? It should sound better now. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, you weren't getting, is the audio different now? Is it better now than it was? It should be more distinctly clear. Okay. I just have to check and make sure because I don't know why. I don't know why it stopped. I don't know why it stopped. I don't know why. It should have been charging and it wasn't. That's one of the big problems with this is the pass-through. Sometimes gets screwed up. So it's better. Okay. I paid a lot of money for these microphones. I want to fucking use them. What was I talking about? Functional elements of the knives. This is, we're fighting against narcotics and muscle relaxers. Other elements of the knife that are attractive but still functional. The pocket clip. The pocket clip can be done in a really, really exceptionally cool factor, like this. But this is probably one of the better pocket clips I've ever had on a knife. It's not the best. The best goes to this knife that I've said numerous times is perfect. This is the best. Hey, Mark. This is the best pocket clip I've ever had on a knife. And some people will argue with me, but I find it to be perfect. It's ambidextrous, things like that. But the pocket clip can be done really, really elaborate. And I don't have any of my Eric Oaks knives out here because my knife case is at my buddy's place because I left it there the other day when I stopped by. We were goofing off and we were talking about knives. The pocket clip on this knife, really, really comfortable, really, really functional. It's done attractively and things like that. So really, really cool. The other thing too is sometimes these can be ornate and things like that. As you see, let me see if I can get you guys a better shot of this with some better lighting. That's a Timascus pivot collar. See how they've done all this work around this? But the pivot collar actually serves a purpose. The pivot collar actually does serve an actual purpose. I'm going to tell you right now. It allows you to tension down that pocket clip without having it sucked down that pivot. So on a pivot, let me see, how is the one on the smaller version of this knife? The pivot collar allows you to tighten that. See how that's got kind of a hard edge on it? This is the same knife, but smaller. So this is like me and Nico walking around in a knife show. That pivot collar takes that hard edge off of that pivot. See how that pivot is just kind of abrupt? They did chamfer it a little bit, but I mean, it's just a hard edge and you feel up against it. On this, it stands out a little bit more because it does have the pivot collar you screw down, and it allows the pivot collar then spreads that tension out so it's not as tight. It's not as hard to get the pivot out because now the area is larger, so you're putting force on a larger area so you don't have to turn as hard to get the pivot in. And that is absolutely much more comfortable in hand than the original because it's not as abrupt. It tapers down. It tapers down into, and if you guys are here, please drop a like. I absolutely love it when you guys are here. I love when you guys do it, but if I don't get the likes, this doesn't get shared as much. Sorry, I got a text from my daughter. As you guys know, my daughter, if you guys don't know, my daughter's in college. She's only 6, she just turned 17. So my daughter has been in college. She's starting midterms right now. My daughter started college at 16. And so yes, I worry about her greatly in the fact that like she is not as worldly as a lot of the other kids. So anytime she texts me when she's at school, I gotta look at it. So I apologize if it's interrupting the stream. But at any rate, let me go grab something. Somebody said something about a pivot lock. And the pivot lock is really cool. I've got one out in the studio. It'll just take me a second to get it. So if you hang on, is she a genius? How did that happen? She started school early and she graduated early. She was valedictorian. She's not a genius, but she is very, very smart and very driven. It's not so much that she's smarter than the other kids. She has just worked harder. And that's, I told her, I was like, if you can accomplish anything you set your mind to it, even if it's harder for you than someone else, if you put the work into it, you can do anything. And so she is a computer science major. She's, okay, let me go grab that knife and we'll talk about it. But I'll tell you about my daughter. That's a topic I don't mind talking about at length. Let me go grab a pivot lock knife. Grab a pivot lock knife and another knife here that I wanted to show you guys. Pivot lock is here, and we'll grab this one. I don't know if you guys can even hear me. I don't know how far that transmitter goes. I don't know how far the transmitter actually will throw, but I was talking to you guys about stuff while I was out in the studio. Other functional parts of a knife. I have a pivot lock here. This is a pivot lock. This is really cool. You guys could hear me while I was talking about like pulling stuff out. This is you're a TV tech, I don't know, at any rate. So this is a pivot lock. And so the lock is in the pivot, right? This one was a gift. I have another Pittsburgh Steelers hat that is in the garage that was a gift from a family friend several years ago. I mean, years and years ago. I mean, when my daughter was a baby. At any rate, so this lock is a button lock, but it's in the pivot, so it gives you clean lines on that, and there is a functional purpose for that. It gives you, on some button locks, I feel cramped, and sometimes I get my index finger on the button, and I've never had one break loose but I have had them get wiggly, and I'm like, ooh, I disengaged the lock slightly. That one, I'm off of it, and it's a really easy way to deploy the knife. Also has a flipper, things like that. I don't buy any of those garbage. I don't go for any of those garbage. Milwaukee, oh, we should get the Milwaukee Fastback. I was like, or I can get something that is way more reliable. I don't have to replace the blades in, and it's better for all of my purposes because a Milwaukee Fastback will only do some things. Oh, we were talking about my daughter. So somebody asked us, Eugenius, at any rate, she is a computer science major. She's majoring in computer science and minoring in Japanese, which kind of is a cheat because my wife is Japanese and my daughter speaks and reads and writes Japanese. So basically that's gonna be an easy minor for her. But she's also working for a computer cybersecurity firm as a paid employee. So she's going to go out of college with a degree from one of the better schools in the country for computer science. I think right now it's ranked number 3 for the computer science program in the country. And then the fact is she's going to have that degree and 4 years of, almost 5 years of experience working for a cybersecurity firm, which is what she wants to do, is cybersecurity. But I'm retired military, so I did instill into her a good sense of discipline. And what got held for review? Oh, I see. At any rate, I went out to go get a specific knife. That specific knife. Oh, other elements that are attractive but still functional. And you guys are going to see this. This is great. This is one of my favorite knives. Up there because this was a gift from a friend of mine. Craig 24 TAV. There's your shout out. This is all hand carved, right? Super attractive, right? Really, really attractive. But just like the other knives, that adds a functional element to this. I don't know why I took those off. I'm being stupid. This is absolutely functional. Well, Craig, you know what? You're free to leave. If you're not having fun, fuck off somewhere else. You know what I mean? Super, super functional on this because it gives you grip. But there's other elements to this that have been added. See that swedge? And everybody's like, oh, that swedge, it looks cool. On this knife, it doesn't really do as much. But on some knives, that swedge, and I just don't have one here. Actually, I do. I do. This knife, the swedge. So you've ground into this and you grind this down. What you've done now is you've thinned that material behind there. So this can be an abrupt tip. If you don't do that, it can be a little bit blunt because of the way it sweeps up into the thicker material of the blade. So if you do a swedge, it's attractive, but it also thins the material behind the tip so that you still have a tip that you can pierce into. And I'm not talking for like a tactical purpose, but for the ability to punch into something if you're trying to cut through it and things like that. It comes in handy, right? This blade shape being attractive, this upswept blade serves another purpose. It's a lot harder to punch a gut if you're skinning out a knife. Now this is the smaller version, so this would be a lot more useful in that. Like as much as I like the larger version, I can say if you're skinning small game that this would be a little bit more useful. You didn't offend me. I just like telling you, like if you don't like it, you fuck off. Basically, that's it. Like, oh great, fucking bye. Like, I wasn't offended at all. Like you really have to. the quote I like to use most is, for me to be offended, I have to respect your opinion in the first place. And I probably don't. So at any rate, a knife like this that has this pronounced belly and it sweeps up, the reason that blade sweeps up as far as it does is because for some things, you don't want that direct inline, tip. Because if you've ever hunted, if you pop a gut, it's horrible. And then you got to clean everything out because now you've contaminated the meat, so that entire cavity. So when you're skinning out an animal, having that tip be swept up where it's a little bit further back allows you to be a little bit more aggressive on how you're skinning out the animal. Skinning knives typically have a very, very curved tip, right? And then you have all this belly. So what you're making contact with is this part right here when you're skinning an animal. The larger one, which I can't, there it is. The larger one I don't think would be as useful because it's just bigger and then you're farther away from the actual work surface, because you can see how much more significantly larger that blade is on the XL version. Stone hands, I have a curved tip. I bet you do. I bet you. Did you close it in a car door? I have a prehensile one. It's like an elephant's trunk. I pick up apples and shit with it. Have you ever cleaned a skunk? The stakes have never been higher. Okay, so just a little story. So our previous golden retriever, she chased cats. I don't know what. This one loves cats. He just wants to play with cats. But our previous golden retriever, female that we had, would chase cats. And she could never figure out the difference between a skunk and a cat. I grew up in, no, I won't say that. As a matter of fact, that gets you escorted off the channel because we don't do politics here at all. I grew up in the country. And I never once did I ever get sprayed by a skunk. I grew up in the woods. Like, I was in the woods more hours in the summer and on weekends than I was in the house. And I never once got sprayed by a skunk until I moved to a city of more than 1 million people. And I've gotten sprayed by a skunk in San Diego 3 fucking times. Three times. Crab with a knife. I actually had a funny story yesterday. Husky. Oh, I do have a knife that shows it really well. The dog and I were out for a walk yesterday morning, and there was a husky. So Sunday morning, before my shoulder got to the point, it hurt so bad that I had to go to the emergency room. It hurt pretty bad, but at any rate, I was out with a walk, and there was a husky that was just running free, and I thought I knew whose it was, and I was like, well, let's go home, let's get you home. So I got him back, and the guy was like, that's not my husky. I don't know who's this. Dog followed us, played with my dog, followed us all the way home, and just came right in the house. Came up and was scared the shit out of my wife. She was sitting in a chair here in the kitchen, and she was like, oh my God. And I was like, he followed us home. And the dog stayed in the garage with me and the dog out in my studio. And they played for like 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, the dog just took off. And I didn't see him again for the rest of the day. I was like, holy cow. He was such a sweet, sweet dog. And he is skittish. Like he was skittish. And when I would reach for him, he would kind of back away. But he was really sweet. And he was like, he came in and sniffed my wife, but he wouldn't let us pet him. I was trying to see his collar and see if I could get a phone number. But he took off. I guess he went home. My shoulder's starting to hurt. I did not take all of my medications yet because, well, not aggressive at all. Super, super sweet. Look kind of young. Here is a knife that absolutely does what I was talking about. So this swedge comes all the way down to the point, right? So it allows you to maintain that because, as you can see, that grind goes all the way up. And if you had just brought this grind up and terminated it, the tip would be thick. It'd be really blunt, and you wouldn't be able to poke into things. This is a slip joint. This is the Clinch River Swayback by Rosecraft Blades. Go over and say hi to everybody and Swags had her baby, and I haven't gotten a chance to talk to her about it, but she had her baby, Swags, over at Rosecraft Blades. Savannah. So what that gives you is that material removal gives you a better piercing tip without it being thick, and you just simply remove some material off the spine. It definitely serves a purpose, but it also is attractive. It gives a facet to that. And you're like, oh, wow, that's cool. Serves a purpose. It just is a second hand. It's just a secondary thing that it looks attractive. Or we have decided it's attractive. Now, I have to admit, there are things that get done on knives that are 100% just for aesthetics. And the reason is knives have become a hobby, right? Knives have become a hobby and people collect things. I have to say, it can be to the detriment of the community. And I'm going to call you out here, Winston Cobretti, if you happen to watch this. I've had this knife here for the better part of 4 or 5 months, right? And I haven't really cut anything with it. I did some light duty cutting because he didn't want the finish ruined. I am not that guy. So we did a cursory review. Now this is mine. He sent me the XL version and it's mine. And he also said I can cut with this and do a comparison. The problem with some of these things becoming aesthetic and becoming a hobby and things like that is guys will get like, oh, I scratched this, it's scratching up my knife. Who cares? It's a tool, right? It's a tool. A lot like whoever sent a message that got held for review. No. View deleted message. So when they then become something you're collecting, and I don't have anything against people that are collectors just for collector's sake, but I don't agree with a lot of the mindset that says, oh, well, I won't use that for that purpose because it's going to get scratched. Now, I definitely don't use knives for things they weren't designed for. I would not cut wire or anything with this knife. I would not trim wire with this knife for 2 reasons. One, really, really thin edge. It's more prone to damaging if you're doing something like, even like stripping wire, you're gonna screw that edge up. And everybody's like, well, copper's softer than steel. I'm like, it's still metal. You know, like it's still metal. I don't know if you've ever hit one of those copper or brass staples that's in a cardboard box and you didn't know it was there and you're like, oh no, that sucks. It just strips the edge off because it's so thin. But not using your knives is silly. They're tools. This is going to get the shit used out of it. This knife is in my pocket daily. Now, granted, I'm not in the military anymore, so I'm not doing as much, but this has cut a lot of cardboard. It's cut a lot of, cardboard. It's cut a lot of zip ties. It's done a lot of stuff. So, Rich Magoo, thank you for time and attention. Got to go. Take it easy, Rich. Take it easy. Stop by. I'm probably going to do a bunch of these because it's going to be harder to film. It's just going to be a pain in the ass to set up everything to film with this shoulder the way it is. Because I did some tear down in the studio because we thought my daughter and some of her college friends were going to come here for a movie night. And it turns out they went to one of the dorms instead of coming here. So other things that wind up people think are aesthetic. This blade shape. Have you tried? Yes, stone hands. I did a video on the misdemeanor. Jared shared the video I did on the misdemeanor. So I was in the Navy, retired Navy. But I did my last few years as a dirt sailor. I deployed Marines. I did some deployments as IAs. And I was at Mobile Expeditionary Combat, Mobile Expeditionary Security, MESF. Mobile, they changed the name so many times. It used to be, what was it? It used to be, so when I was there, it was Naval Coastal Warfare, and then it was Mobile Security Squadron, MSS, and then it was Mobile Expeditionary Security Forces, but we all fell under Naval Expeditionary Combat Command. So at any rate, the blade shape on this, some people would say, oh, that's done for a specific aesthetic, but the fact is, super functional. It gives you a radiused area where you have more cutting edge. So when you cut into that, it forces the material into the cut. When you start here, it forces material up into that area here. Now, this is not a real prominent recurve, but it forces material up in there, and it just adds more power to the cut. So if it's, my moderators are obviously at work because people are being hidden from the chat for a specific period of time. Freak is back. I don't know who that is. It's probably Craig, just with a different account. So at any rate, it's enough here. Let's see, I don't have a problem sharpening. I got all the tools and I was a professional sharpener for years. But it definitely gives you in this area here a little bit of extra work, and then you've got some belly up here to do some tasks. Now this is a larger knife than I would use for things, but you could, because of the way it's built, because another thing that was done that looks aesthetic is these cutouts here, but guess what? I can get my fingers in that area and I can get all the way up here. I'm not in risk of cutting myself, and I can use that for some skinning. Right? Shane's knives, the sheepfoot looks, I don't even know which Shane we're talking about. I don't know. So this is great. And if it's who I think it is, I stopped following them because they were talking shit about me in other people's comments section instead of coming to me. So yeah, you could use this. And the other thing is to see how big the swedge is on this. This is some thick blade stock. What it allows it to do is comes down. It comes down and thins that material when you get up to the tip. But this has a relatively thick tip on this. Even it's still piercing, but there's a lot more material to tip because this is really thin here. The belly starts to thicken up while the tip is a little bit thicker. So it keeps you from breaking that point off. But that recurve is absolutely, it serves a purpose. So, yeah, we're coming up on, we've been like an hour. We'll go a little bit longer. We'll see. I have some cool knives here that, ceramic and diamond sharpening and honing rods. I don't like the diamond rods, typically. But a lot of people do. A lot of people really do. I'm trying to find... Here it is. Oh, another feature. Some people think that this ring is just it is an aesthetic. This actually serves a very, very distinct and unique purpose. This is how. Okay, so this is a defensive knife. That's what I was going to say. I'm glad. Yo, Jared's here. So, Sharon, I'm doing lives because there's just no way I'm going to be able to film. I'm on narcotics and muscle relaxers. And if a live feed goes off the rails, it's not such a big deal. But if I pre-recorded a video, I'm going to be really upset. So at any rate, we were just talking about your misdemeanor, Jared. So this looks aesthetic. It looks like something we're like, oh, that looks cool. It's a piece of it, but it absolutely is 100% an important part of the deployment. So if you guys want to see here, this is how you can tell a knife guy. Look at the pockets. You look at a knife guy's pockets, they're all frayed in two spots. So if you put this knife in your pocket, it sits like that. It allows you to grab that, and now I've got a definite, solid grip on that as a defensive knife. You see what I'm saying? The misdemeanor. We were just talking about your misdemeanor. This is not an Emerson. This is a Dirk Pinkerton inversion. Dirk Pinkerton inversion. It's a defensive knife. This is a Pikal. So Pikal is one of the best knives. I don't carry a fixed blade Pikal because here in California I can carry a fixed blade. In San Diego I can carry any fixed blade I want as long as it's exposed and as long as it's not double-edged, right? A problem with the Pikal is a lot of times they're smaller and you're carrying it fashion where it's going to be concealed. Now I can carry this because I can carry any folding knife I want as well. And I can carry it concealed and I get the best of both worlds. So I have a folding knife, but I also then wind up with a Pikal, which I think is about the perfect self-defense knife because it is a very, very intuitive self-defense design. It is simply like hammer, fist, and drag, hammer, fist, and drag. Pikal's probably the best. There are people that like a karambit. This is another really attractive knife. There are people that like a karambit, but the problem with the karambit is I have to do a different motion that's not as intuitive. Now, I've trained with these, and I do, for self-defense purposes, would feel comfortable carrying this. This is just a lot easier to use, right? So now I've just got, it's like adding, it's like when they add the metal piece to, I still have use of my hand. I can still attack. I can use this. I can hit. I'm not dragging this way. So I can hit and then I can drag. So I could hit you with this like a knuck. I can still fight. And now I've just added a little extra element. You know what I mean? So that ring, now you can remove the ring off this one. My daughter has the matriarch too. Can I carry a K-bar? It depends. Like a lot of times these knives things. Well, you guys are having a secondary conversation. That's cool. Drop a like, guys, if you haven't dropped a like. So, other functional elements, like that looks attractive. It looks cool. You've got that spot on the back. It's a nice little pop of color. Absolutely a functional element. And I wish more companies would do this. This protects. If you want to swap this, you've got another set of hardware and everything over here that is going to keep dirt and things from getting in these holes. So it serves a purpose. It looks cool. It looks industrial and things like that. Just a little extra element to that. But it serves a purpose because it keeps you from having to clean this out if you want to swap this. And this is absolutely. There's the narcotics. There's the Percocet. It's absolutely going to be, I do not agree. A knife is a great thing to rely on with your life if you're in an area like I am where I can't carry a firearm. So, like, what else do you want? Like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't trust my life to a knife. Well, I can't carry anything else in San Diego right now because I don't have a CCW. So, Jacob, I don't think it's a bad idea, especially considering I've taken martial arts my entire life and I trained with edged weapons and things like that. I took Japanese swordsmanship. At any rate, that's neither here nor there. That's personal opinion. And just like opinions are just like assholes. Everybody's got one and most of them stink. I have one at my house. Okay, Jacob, here we go. I'm not talking about carrying these in my house for defense. I do go other places. I go places. I don't, you know what? I'm going to say something that may offend you, but I'm going to stop right now because I've learned that arguing with a stupid person is like playing chess with a pigeon. No matter how well you're doing, eventually that pigeon is going to take a shit on the board and strut around like it won anyway. It's just not worth the effort. So that's the kind of mood I'm in. That's just the kind of mood I'm in. So bro, I've applied for CCW like 4 times. You don't live in California, apparently. Yeah, you know what? This is what we do. Because the fact is, people are just trolling. So it's just gonna take. Let's see here. What were the other comments? A knife creates space to get your firearm. Sometimes. The Chavez pocket clip, a functional design. I love the Chavez knife pocket clip. I don't have my 229 out, but the pocket clip on the pocket clip on the Chavez actually adds a little bit of thickness to the handle. So I don't have to be mean, but like it's my channel. I just decided to because that's the kind of mood I'm in. And a lot of it's done just as trolls, Hadley Star. And all of us are just getting fed up with the trolls that just come in and hit the chat. At any rate, so the Chavez pocket clip adds some thickness, and sometimes that can be handy. there's a couple things that you can do to make a handle on a knife comfortable. We've talked about this before. So on this knife, it's fairly thin this way, but it's broad this way, right? So to add an element of thickness to the knife somewhere, no, the Chavez. So to add a little bit of thickness this way, when you don't have it here, will make the knife more comfortable. You've got to come up with a way to get the engagement in the hand where it doesn't feel too thin. And sometimes knives don't do that, and those are knives that I typically don't gravitate towards. The handles on this are really, really comfortable because they're knife and rod. You know what? I'll go grab the 229 just so you can see it because it is an aesthetic. It is an aesthetic thing that actually does serve a purpose. So let me go grab it. It's just right out here. I know where it's at. It's out here in the studio. So we'll grab that one. Yeah, that's, oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I grabbed another one. Elements that are attractive yet functional, other things. So the Chavez 229, if you guys don't know, Ramon's really famous for doing these garish, big pocket clips, these skull clips, right? Now, I've refinished mine and re-anodized it because, well, I was a knife maker and I could do things like that. But see this big pocket clip? It's not sharp, but you see how it adds some thickness to the handle of a knife. It's not sharp, it's not uncomfortable, but when you get it in hand, it's just in a right spot to add some thickness in that knife, some dimension in that knife. Even though it's a big, beefy knife already, it just adds a little bit of dimension to that knife that makes it feel a little more secure in hand, since this is a little slick. Remember we were talking about slick knives? This one's slick, right? That adds a little bit of thickness in the back so you don't feel like it's going to slide out of your hand. It absolutely is one of the best pocket clips you're going to get out there. And some people just don't like them. They're like, all right, I hate them. They're ugly. I think that they're really cool looking. I love them, right? I love this pocket clip. It's very, very functional. And then there was another knife that I brought out because we were talking about functional elements that are attractive. Eric Oakes has a line of knives that he calls, I'm trying to read the chat here. Eric Oakes makes a line of knives called the EDX line. He has this one, which is my personal best available option for a Benchmade 940. If you're looking for a good Benchmade 940 option, this is one, and it's not that much more expensive than a lot of the other options. But what he does is, see this jimping, or I'm sorry, this milling that's done here? That's not just there to be attractive. It's absolutely, when you get up here in that pinch grip, it's like jimping. It's cut aggressive enough that it gives you a little bit of extra grip, right? It gives you a little bit of extra grip in that pinch cut. And then it's, when you're up on it like this, it just gives you an extra bit of texture. And then the pocket clip is textured as well. And that in your hand, it just feels a little bit extra, right? It's just a little bit extra grip. Is it attractive? I think it is, but it's also super functional. All of his knives have it. The Osprey, the Lantra, and this one, the Solar Storm, right? So there's a lot of things that wind up being functional elements of a blade or a knife. Have I ever gotten my hands on a Rask? I did a video about a Rask a long time ago. It's a really good knife. The reason I got the Norseman was, one, I'd handle a bunch of them, and I love the Norseman, and I love the uniqueness of the blade, but I also realized the functionality of it when I had a customer who's like, hey, I'm gonna send it to you for sharpening, but use it. And he wanted the blade refinished, he wanted the handle refinished and anodized, and I'm like, he's like, so, you know, if you want to use it. So I wound up sharpening it twice. I did a video, Glyco, I did a video on it. It's on the channel. I realized the functionality of the blade and I liked it, but the fact also was I'd handled the Rask, and when I got the Rask, I was like, I have so many other knives. When I had a Rask in for review, I've got so many other knives that are so similar to the Rask. And I was like, it just doesn't make sense because for as good as that knife is, it's pretty plain Jane. It is still a pretty plain Jane knife, and it doesn't have the uniqueness of it, but still functionality of this. I know a lot of people think this is ugly. I love this knife. I think it's a very, very good, I mean, it's really functional, and it's so unique that I fell in love with it. But it's got a great use to it. A lot like the Graham Razel. So if you guys remember, Graham Razel was a straight blade that had then terminated at a chisel edge. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really weird. It was a Tonto, but it was just like, it looked like a screwdriver. So really, really good. Blade grinds too. Blade grinds can be attractive and still serve a purpose. So this one is a ZDP 189 core, right? But you see all this ladder that's on it? Well, there's two things that happen here. So ZDP 1's an expensive material. So it's carbon fiber. So it makes it light. But this stepping here, you've got ZDP 189 at the core, and then this is all two other materials that come down and step down. So you're using less of the expensive material. There's a bunch of knives that do this. I have a handful of knives that are ZDP 189 core. And what that lets you do is you can have the really, really high premium material at the edge and then jacket it with cheaper material on the exterior. And that means that you've got premium material where you need it, but then you've saved on the amount that you've got on the exterior. I don't know if it's getting discontinued, but here's the thing. The formula for it's out there. I'm pretty sure some company's going to re-release it in some form or fashion at some point if it does get discontinued, because it's just such a good steel. I was getting ready to say, the mirror polish on some knives absolutely reduces friction, right? It reduces friction. This knife has got a, oh no, come on, Mountain Man, I'm not Tim Walls. This is a DLC coated blade, and it gives you that same it's almost as slick, I guess, as a polished edge or a polished blade. Sliding the material, it does reduce friction, but it also protects the blade. So this coating, does it look cool? Yeah, it looks cool, but it's also protecting the blade. This is DLC, some knives are PVD, and it does add to the aesthetics of the knife. So that PVD coating, that black coating, well, serves two purposes. This is K110 steel. K110 is really similar to D2, and it rusts. It rusts easy. So putting that, that coating on the blade prevents it from rusting, but it does make it look cool, right? And if you do the finish correctly, like they did here, where you give it a light tumble to remove the excess material, you don't get any additional friction, really. And so it protects the blade from rust, and that way the only exposed part of it is the edge. So it's definitely a functional thing, but it does give you a coloration on this, and that looks tactical. It looks cool. How many movies have you seen where the knife has got that black coating and just the shiny edge? Back in the 80s and 90s when all that happened? When all those movies were going on? That's what you saw, was like that black blade with the shiny edge, and it does reduce reflectivity on these knives. I wish I saw I wish we saw some K190 PMD7. I don't think I've seen that steel, and I don't think I've sharpened it. It does not sound familiar. So yeah, those coatings serve multiple purposes. It protects the blade. It is an aesthetic thing that gives you like the coloration. Now this was not the original color of this handle. I colored this. So you can use these materials as composite material, super, super strong, right? on this knife, just G10. It's fiberglass laminated with, it's fiberglass laminated, layers of fiberglass laminated with epoxy. And then it's pressed into plates, and then you just cut it out and you make handles out of it. It's a great, great material. It's super, super strong. Well, the cool thing about it is you can do it in multiple colors. You can dye it, as you can see. I did here. This originally was a color of teal, a little bit lighter than the KME that I put on the CME that I put on this, Compression Made Easy. You can do colors on this. They do the same thing in the micarta. Like this is black. What else do I have here that's in micarta? This one is brown. This is a really good natural brown colored micarta. So you can get colors and stuff, and you're still getting the function of this being a really good handle material. You can just color it. So it gives you an aesthetic material, but it's also really, really strong because it's fiberglass. It's fiberglass. It's basically the same thing they make boats out of. When you look at how they do boats and make fiberglass boats, basically that's G10. When you get down to it, it's layers of fiberglass that then they press and fill with an epoxy. Yeah, I was Navy. So, and then you can texture these. You can texture them, that gives you some grip. Same thing with carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is a great material because it's really strong. It's weight reduced. You can do all kinds of fancy patterns and things in it, and then you can mill it. But just plain carbon fiber has got a really attractive look to it, like pearlescent look to it that you get in it. See what I'm saying? So it's attractive, but it's also really, really strong, really, really light. So, I mean, and this is just an attractive blade right here. Now, the satin finish that's on this, not my preferred. It's a hand satin that's on this. It scratches really easy. The first time you use a knife, I mean, this has got some scratches on it. I don't use this too much because this was a gift from Tashi Barucha. Tashi Barucha sent this to me from France, the designer. So this is really special. There's some knives that I have that are really special that came from the designers and things like that. And they're like, oh, I want to send it to you. I want you to see it, and then you can just keep it. Like knives that were gifts from people I really respect in the industry. I love Tashi. He's a great dude. I haven't talked to him in a while. I feel bad. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he's in France. So yeah. Other things on knives that are some people find attractive but are still functional. We talked about the glass breaker on this, but that hole back there, like, oh, that's really cool. Well, the fact is that that is a way of putting a lanyard on your knife. It's a lanyard hole, like this. This knife I carry a lot. I typically don't like lanyards, but the way I carry this is in a pocket slip, and it sits all the way down in the pocket slip, and the pocket slip has a pocket clip built into it so that I can carry this in my pocket like a regular knife, and I can just pull it out. But the comfort level on this is great because it does not have a clip on it. Super, super great. Now, I will say that my lanyard bead makes that roll around. It kind of does get in the way. This is my problem with lanyards. See that? As I'm using it, it's just in the way. It's in the way. I want to find a different bead to put on my lanyard that's not as heavy, but this one just pretty much sums up how I feel most days. So it's just easy for me to carry. It's just an aesthetic piece, but it does serve a purpose. The lanyard bead on this allows this to sit. So when this is in my pocket, it sits over and it keeps it in place so I know where it's at and I can grab it. So that bead, an aesthetic thing on a lanyard, which can be an aesthetic thing, does serve the purpose of allowing that to hang at a spot where I constantly have weight on it and it does bang into your pocket and stuff. But I can just grab it and go, as the same as the lanyard. I like to have a little bit of weight on a lanyard if I'm going to use a lanyard for that specific purpose. When this is in my pocket, in its slip, that sits there and it keeps it in a spot where it doesn't move around. Have I lost any expensive knives before? I don't lose knives very often. I did, however, have an old school Gerber Gator that was issued to me in the military, and that's not an expensive knife, I know. And I dropped it over the side of the ship, which I dropped several knives over the side of the ship, but that was the one I really liked. That coffee is cold. Well, I mean like cold, cold. So, I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Oh, here's one. Now this, yeah, with the rubber handles, exactly. Now this is a knife that people argue with me about. They say, oh, it's ugly. They're like, oh, I couldn't carry it. It's hideous. However, some people say it looks like a security door, like a screen door in a city. Like when I was in screen door where I grew up was just screen, like what you have like going out into your yard and shit. But this looks more like a security door. But that is a really, really cool element on this knife. And I can't read Japanese. Not very well anymore anyway. This knife is one of the lightest knives I own because, one, the handle material is not real thick. This is milled down in like this. Can you see how it's milled down in? Well, it's milled out on the inside at the same degree it is. So on the inside, it's milled exactly like this. This knife is super light. Super, super light. The blade on it is great too, by the way. 14C28N blade on this. This is the TS384 in 14C28N. And this is a laser. And it's super, super sharp. But that gives it a really good balance because you see, weight forward, it's got a really good balance when you're using it. You're not going to fatigue. Really good handles, really great shape, and they're super light. Yeah, it's Tucson. It's Tucson. I don't think they make this one anymore. And it's got a really long pocket clip that's been built on. The pocket clip on this one's great. And it has that lanyard hole there. So that right there is a lot of material. Not a big fan of holes in general, bit of a pain to keep clean. I'm going to tell you right now, Emler may have to call you later regretting stropping a blade. Oh, hey, Winston. Thank you very much. The guy that just was talking to Winston Capretti, one of my paying members, he's the guy that sent me. This thing's great. This thing's amazing. It's way better for my size hands than yours, the small one. So, these are easy to clean out. I'm going to tell you right now, people flip out about like cleaning your knives, you got to do this, you got to do that. You know what I do? I take this thing and I put it in the sink and I turn the water on and I spray it out real hard with hot water. And then I put a drop of lubricant. A lot of times with knives, with knives that are designed well and with the proper lubricant, you can put a drop of lubricant on top. You don't need to take your knives apart as often as some people tell. Oh, go take my knife apart every week and clean it. Fucking why? So those holes are easy to clean out. I have a battery-powered air blower, rechargeable thing that's like super high power and it just blows stuff out. Clean out your knives. Simple. People put too much work into it. I don't, unless I'm filming a video, very rarely do I take a knife apart. I took this knife apart twice and I will never take this knife apart again. This is that one that has the pivot lock. The lock mechanism on this is a complete and utter pain in the pecker to take apart. I won't ever do it again. It doesn't suffer. I carry this knife a lot. It doesn't suffer from getting dirty and not getting taken apart and cleaned because I do the same thing I do with everything else. I just blow it out and put a drop of oil or two on the top. If you're using KPL, very rarely do you have to take your knife apart because it does do exactly what they say it does. It keeps the grit in suspension. So if you take the pivot of your knife and wash it out under the sink under hot water, shake it out, get it good and dry, blow it out, and then put a couple drops of KPL from the top and allow it to the capillary action to wick it down in, no problem. Let me grab that thing. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. This thing was one of the best purchases. I got a discount code from the company. to use. And it's simply a rechargeable, super high power blower. Like it's a great little thing. And this is what I use. My buddy came over and decided that this thing needed to be called the Blowjob 3.0. I don't know why, but it's got powerful. So this thing is great. And you just recharge it, and when you're done cleaning your knives, let me see if I can find one that's dirty that's been carried a bunch. Of course, this one gets carried every day. Can you see how much gunk and stuff is down in there? I don't know how well you guys can see it. There's a good bit of gunk and pocket lint and stuff in there. That's all you need to do. I took my Ontario Rat 1 apart, tried to center the blade. Thing's just a piece of shit. I absolutely agree. People disagree with me. I hate the Ontario Rat 1. It's a piece of shit. The only reason that there is one out in my studio is because occasionally I just get the urge to shit on the Rat 1. Just garbage. Hey! Hey Mike, how's it? I'm working on a V2 Warren-Tack prototypes. Hopefully have some prototypes available in a few months. Custom EDC knives. He makes a great knife called a Warren-Tack. Super, super thin. It's not a heavy duty folder. Like you can fuck up the tip on it pretty easy. Or in my case, asking about knives. I forgot about this. Asking about knives, expensive knives that I lost. Well, the Warren-Tack's about $300, so it's a fairly expensive knife. I took mine to the beach because it was a great beach knife. It was made in M390, so it's rust resistant, titanium. And I was at the beach with my kid and the dog, and I managed to drop the Warren-Tack that Custom EDC Knives sent. It's a great knife. Absolutely go pick one up. Absolutely go pick one up. It's a great, great knife. If he's got prototypes coming, they should be available soon. Go to Custom EDC. I can't remember the name. Is it Custom EDC? At any rate, go check him out. If one of my paying members or one of my moderators would like to drop his website, I would appreciate it because I'm not going to do it right now. Ganzo button lock clone is better. Don't buy clones. Well, Ganzo really doesn't make clones anymore. They have their own designers. They're not technically clones. They are definitely different. So if you guys haven't subscribed, please do so. I'd like to watch that go up. One of you guys just did. But yeah, I don't like clone knives. I don't mind knives that are, there's a dozen T6 screws that aren't good screws. They're not good solid screws. They're poorly made screws that are holding the Rat 1 together. I will pay a little bit more extra. The problem is the Rat 1 is not that cheap comparatively. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the Rat 1 is a immensely popular knife. Yeah, there you go. They're an immensely popular knife, and they are an immensely popular knife. They are a knife that did not age. Like other companies have knives that just basically, there you go, Raccoon Sex Dungeon. Thank you very much. Precision Knife Works USA. I couldn't remember the name of it. There you go. Go check it out. Awesome, awesome stuff. He was kind enough to send one of the Warren-Tacks over. I loved it. I didn't carry it as often. It was a knife that I would carry for specific purposes. Like I said, it was a great knife for the beach because it just was something that I knew I could use for anything I wanted at the beach, because a lot of times if something gets tangled up, animals get tangled up in some line, you just pop it because it's a Warrenclyffe. So 33 months he's been a paying member. So links work. Raccoon Sex Dungeon just put one up. Oh, it might not work because we are in the shorts feed. So this is the big one. Like, guys, when I do a short, we're not allowed to put links in the shorts anymore that work. YouTube stopped that. So it sucks. So you might not be able to do it because we are on the shorts. We're doing vertical, which puts it on the short speed, which is why we get so much interaction. What was I on a tear about? Sorry guys, some of the medication I'm taking just fucks with my memory. And I've had, oh, here we go again with this. Guys, hang on a second. I got to figure this out. I have got to figure out why we're not getting power like we should be. Can you guys hear me? We may have to just go with the native microphone. I don't know. May have to just do it this way. I may have to take off. How's the audio work right now? How's the audio sound now? Is it acceptable? Because it definitely is not working. This part is not working because it's supposed to feed power to the device I'm on, and it ain't. So I may as well just take off this super expensive fucking studio grade microphone system that I'm using. Links work if you're on a PC or tablet. They don't work on your mobile. See, I don't know. It's weird. Now, this works great when I'm filming. That way I can take this off. See? Sounds more like a phone call? Well, that's because we're on a phone. I'm sorry, if the audio is not good, it's just gonna have to not be good because the problem is the power pass through is not working. So we just take off our. You see the new Lair and Thomas steel prototype. I did see Big Brown Bear put up something. He did a heat treat on something and he was cryoing it and he pulled it out and cut a glass bottle. That just means it's 67. I don't know what steel it is. I have no idea what it is. I was gonna text him and ask him, but I really don't care at this point. I am about over the entire super steel thing. I'm just about done with it. I really have reached a point where there's only a handful of steels I'll even buy. As much as I appreciate MagnaCut for what it is, it's a steel that was designed for the knife industry, and Laren did a great job. It's not a steel for me. And there's a reason it's not a steel for me, is because anything I've had in MagnaCut, having a fine grain structure is great for certain things. For woodworking tools, super fine grain structure means you take a super, super fine edge and it's gonna leave you a better like if you've ever done woodworking and use a chisel, the finer you can get the edge on a wood chisel, the less sanding you have to do. Same with planer blades. That's why those Japanese planes, the hand planes, are like ridiculously sharp, and you see guys cutting off like an entire like it looks like paper. You can see through it. You can read the newspaper through it. That super fine edge is great for some things like that, and it's because it's super, super fine, so you get less of the weirdness in the edge that then streaks your work finish, right? Problem with that is for the things that I do, that's not what I want. I'm not doing woodworking and things like that. I know that the sun is coming right in this window and it's a horrible reflection off my reading glasses. I'm not doing those things. I'm cutting coarse line. I'm cutting cardboard. I'm cutting wood. I don't want that. I want something that has an aggressive edge, right? I want I want something that will take an aggressive edge, but I still like the ability to take it up to a attractive edge. There's the problem I have with it. I do like that shiny edge. Well, there's some steels you can do that with. Crewware, you can take it up and get a really attractive, more polished edge and have it still be really aggressive. And it's all based on the size of the carbides. The problem I have with a lot of these super steels is that the carbides then wind up being so small. I don't like AEBL for a lot of reasons from other people. Like there are certain, I really have had a problem with the way some people do their AEBL. The problem with a lot of these steels is it's all based on your heat treat. Like how an edge feels and everything is based on. I did not like some of the steels
at the heat treat they were doing them. AEBL being one of them, until I got a couple specific knives, and it's just because of the heat treat. The steels that I gravitate to have a tendency to have those larger carbides all the way up, like they're not as fine a grain structure. When you get that super fine grain structure, yeah, that's great. It's really stable. It's more resistant to cracking and breaking, right? But then your carbides that you're cutting with, the part that does the cutting, they're finer and smaller, and yes, they're more distributed and everything on paper should sound good, but if you're doing it for the tasks I'm doing it with, the edge gets slick, and therefore you have to go down in grit to a more coarse grit, like 400, 600 grit. Well, the problem with those edges, the bigger your serrations are, the easier they are to tear off. You know what I mean? You can still get the fine, super fine micro serrations, but have these obtuse carbides that are still doing the cutting like you do in 14C28N. LMAX, another really good example. You can take it up to a higher grit and still have that aggressive edge for cutting paper and things like that. Or not paper, but cardboard and line and things like that. The cutting that you do with that then lends itself to being a lot better, and it lasts longer. The other thing too is, if you've got really good carbides and they've got all their sharp points at your micro serrations at a higher grit, and you're cutting them properly, and you've got that aggressive edge, it's going to stay a little sharper longer because, like I said, the micro serrations are bigger in those coarser edges. So finer ones are gonna have more to hold them together and keep them from breaking off at the points. And there's less friction on a more polished edge. There's less friction on it that's going to tear out or tear off the carbides and things like that. I don't like CPM 154. I like 154 CM for the same reason. CPM 154 happens to be one of those ones that you have to stay at about no more than 1,000 grit. Same with S35VN. LMAX, you don't have to. 20CV, M390, 204P. Basically the same steel. Don't have to. I made a lot of knives in 20CV. And you can take them up to a pretty high grit and still have a really aggressive edge. So CTS XHP was a steel that I didn't like. Raccoon Sex Dungeon, thank you. I was trying to think of another one. XHP. Did not like XHP. Hated it. I didn't like the edge it took. It didn't feel right. Well, the problem was people weren't heat treating it the right way. Got a couple custom knives in CTS XHP. Amazing. Cold steel, probably the best production heat treat on CTS XHP that you're gonna find. Because a lot of times with the production heat treats, what you wind up with is a steel that takes a shit edge, but holds it for a very, very long time. Like, it's a garbage edge, but it'll hold it forever. That was my problem with CTS XHP because of the way it was being heat treated. I got some knives from Cold Steel and CTS XHP. It was a game changer. It was an amazing steel with their heat treat. And for as much as people like to berate Cold Steel, like, oh, they're a gimmick brand. Cold Steel has gotten the best results out of some of the cheapest garbage steels you'll get. AUS 8, AUS 8, right? AUS 8's a garbage steel. Cold Steel, their AUS 8, fucking epic. So there's a lot of different things. Rex 121, I don't recommend. Rex 121 and Maximet, I don't recommend because they're brittle. For certain purposes, I guarantee they're amazing. But I also have seen guys that snapped a huge chunk out of a Maximet blade because they were cutting a zip tie and twisted it. It's really, the Rex 121 and Maximet, those are ones that, if they're done right, like Big Brown Bear does an amazing heat treat on it, but your production heat treat usually is gonna leave you with something that's more brittle than you want, right? It's gonna be brittle, it's gonna break easy and knock the tip off that knife, and basically you're paying a lot for something that is not what you want for most people's purposes, right? There are some people that Maximet Rex 121 at like 70 Rockwell is probably amazing for them. I'm not that guy. I'm hard on shit. I'm like twisting and cutting and pulling on stuff, and it's not like an outdoor steel like I would want. So that's my problem with those. They are amazing steels. It's incredible that they got that. tungsten carbide, but it was originally for the cutting industry. What it was for you to buy bits that weren't carbide bits that you had to throw away, and you could resharpen the bits with the specific tools there. That's what Maximet was originally for. It was to replace, it was to give you a maintainable option to carbide. It might not cut as long, but it's absolutely great. ADCR V2. So Gabe Harlan, ADCR V2. ADCR V2 is an amazing impact resistance. So for chopping tools, it's amazing. Now you can't get a good heat treat on it, but typically it doesn't have good edge retention. So if you're doing like actual cutting with it, it doesn't hold up. Typically, I do have a knife here that is absolutely the exception to that. I don't find it to be a good edge retention steel. Like it gets dull quick. But if you're putting a big chopper, like that Mako that I've got out there that's an ADCR V2, you can chop with it all day and it won't even get it won't even fuck the edge up. So depending on your application of that steel, it's amazing. You could get 70 HRC Packy Domestic. That would, yes, Aiden, I do know that would be garbage. So I'm not a fan of Spyderco, you say. Okay, so dank airsoft, I wasn't either. For a lot of years, I wasn't. I liked some of their knives. The Endura series, absolutely one of my favorite EDC knives. I've had a ton of them. I got a PM2 for the first time, and I realized that this is ostensibly, in my opinion, the best all-around EDC on the market. It's not super expensive, super functional, comfortable in hand, good blade shape, overall use and functionality, super strong lock on it. The safety factor in it is great. For me being a big guy, you know, like I said, I'm 6'3", 240-ish. The Military 2 is a more comfortable option in hand, but for a lot of people, the PM2 is going to be the more functional option because you're not as far removed. The blade on this can feel a little bit long. You do feel like you're a little bit farther away from the tip on this knife, even for me, even though I got big hands. Love it. You know, triple XL gloves is what I wear. In hand, allowing you to have that closer distance to the tip from your index finger means you got better control. This just winds up being, overall, in my opinion, as much as I love these other knives, if I had to pick one knife that would be the best overall EDC for almost everyone on the planet, this is the one, right? This is my favorite knife of all time. But there's things I can't do with this that I can do with this, right? This is just more functionally a better knife. It just is. This is probably the best knife. Got to hand it to Spyderco if you want to try a steel. They've used most of them. That's the other thing. Spyderco has a broad spectrum of steels that they use in their knives. So it's, you know, it's your option. I have only ever had one bad heat treat from Spyderco, by the way. I still have it because it was a gift, but I have a ZDP 189 Spyderco Endura that really isn't heat treated well. It does not hold its edge like it should. I mean, I've got it right now where it actually does cut pretty well. It's got a pretty aggressive edge on it. S90V on this, the best heat treat I've ever had on S90V. Their heat treats are stellar. I carry this almost daily, and I cut with it a lot. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but can you see all the lines on it from where I've been cutting material with this? This cuts so much. This is still a factory edge, and I could shave with this. I've had this knife since April. April I've had this knife, and I have not had to sharpen it. Right? Crewwear, their Crewwear heat treat, the only knife I've ever had in Crewwear other than this was Alex Steingraber's Custom, and it's the Raja 3. I don't like the Raja. I don't find them to be all that great. So their heat treats are on point. Like I said, the only S90V heat treat I've ever had that was better than this was a custom heat treat in a small batch of 5 knives by Elliot Williamson over at Fair and Forge Knife Works. Custom heat treat on a handmade knife. Like that says a lot because custom heat treat's always going to be better. This is a production heat treat that is as good or possibly better. You don't see that very often. So guys, I'm probably going to end it here. I don't know. There's 60 of you here. I'll stick around for a little bit. We'll stick around for a little bit. We'll do this for another 20 minutes. What do you guys got questions? Like, I'll just answer some questions. I don't want to have to run around. I got to start putting some of these knives away soon before my wife flips out. So, plus I think I got to poop soon. Sorry, texting with my daughter. CID, what are we talking about here? CID, it's called the Primo, it's on pre-order. Is this a knife? CID, did you make a knife? Did I miss something here? I don't know. What knife are we talking about? I missed some of the chat. That happens. Like I said, I'm on. Kershaw Blur. I don't like Kershaw knives. I owned a Blur. I no longer own a Blur. Mainly because I don't like assisted opening knives, and the Kershaw Blur was an assisted opening knife. Matter of fact, I do have to say Kershaw did replace a knife for me. I had a Kershaw Blur, the Ken Onion Kershaw Blur. It was the assisted opening. It fell out of my pocket and snapped open on the tile, and it knocked the tip off of it, and Kershaw replaced the knife. So, but I don't like the Blur. I don't like assisted opening knives. Typically, assisted opening knives are for companies that don't know how to make a smooth knife, and therefore they do that. I don't like the Code 4 by Cold Steel. I'll tell you what, I like Cold Steel's fixed blades, but I have to say, I have never really been a big fan of their folding knives. There's a couple that they have. I have a Voyager. It's not a bad knife. A Voyager Tonto. I've gotten used to it. I mean, but it's not a knife I carry very often. But I've never been a big fan of a lot of their folding knives, except for some of the smaller ones. What Kanwu? I'm going to tell you, I'm in love with the, depending on your hand size. Where's it at? There it is. OA6, what Kanwu? These are the Djangos. This is the Django XL. This is the regular size Django with the XT lock, which is their version of a crossbar lock. It's a very, very good knife. The small one is, for me, a little cramped and small, but the XL is really, really good. I had the AK-47, Todd Carr. I had the AK-47. I did like that one. I like the Lawman and the Mini Lawman. They're not bad little knives. But I had the AK-47 with the Triad lock. I like that knife a lot. If I had to pick a favorite knife brand, oh wow, that's a hard one. I don't know if I have a favorite brand. I really don't. I don't know the specs on it because here's the deal. I don't know anything about these knives when they come in. These come in for review, and I like to do a OA6. So I don't look anything up. I do a blind review because if I look up the product specs on this, I'm going to see the price. And a lot of times, if I see a knife price, and I tell companies that send me stuff all the time, I was like, don't tell me the price. If you want to send me a knife, that's fine. If you don't want to send me a free knife, like I can send it out to other people, like a loaner, and I can send it back to you, things like that. But typically what happens is if you get a knife in, case in point, let me show you. Case in point, I got this knife from Jared over at Neves Knives, right? This is the Valona, right? I got this knife in, and it was an incredible knife. And I was in my head, I'm like, this has got to be like 250. Like 150, 250 in that price range, right? And it was way cheaper. If you get a knife in and you know the price, you're kind of going to make your judgments based on those prices, right? So this being a cheap knife, you might have it in your head, well, it's going to be garbage. And then it detracts from how you're actually going to review it. I found out the price for this is under $100, and I'm like, holy shit. In my opinion, this is the best budget knife on the market. This is the Miguron Valona in DC 53 steel, and that's Miguron. I can't remember how to spell it, but absolutely one of the best. It's the best budget knife when you look at price for options and things like that. I thought it would be 150-ish, right? Such a good knife, right? Everything about it was so good. Under 100. So if I had gone into this thinking this was a $50 knife, I may have formed an opinion prior to, an unfortunate opinion. So I don't know the specs on these. That's what I was getting at. To make a short story long, Mike. Yeah, mine's been Loctited. I do have to agree the pivot does come loose on these. I did have to Loctite my pivot. So I can't tell you, but you can look it up on Kunwu's website. That's the thing. Like, it was like, I don't know. Look the specs up. I just gave you the brand, and I just said I don't have a favorite knife brand. I really don't. Like, if you had to look at it, like who I've bought more knives from, probably Spyderco and Cold Steel. Like, I've owned more of their knives than any other company, really. Because I've had a ton of Spyderco and Dura series. But I really can't say I have a favorite brand. Farrenforge Knife Works, I would have to say, is my favorite company because I worked with them in their shop, and I'm friends with those guys. But I can't necessarily say their brand is my favorite brand. Because unless you're talking about their handmade stuff that they were doing in shop, yeah, this is leaps and bounds above most other companies, but these were also anywhere between $600 and $1,000. And they were mid-tex and they were small batch. I really don't have a favorite brand. So, you know, I really don't have a favorite brand that I could just throw it out there, you know, that's my favorite company. I mean, if you base it, like I said, if you base it on knives I've purchased more from that company than others, it would have to be Spyderco, but that's because I bought multiple versions of the same knife because I would use them and then I would get rid of them. And a lot of this is because Spyderco and Duras aren't that expensive. And back in the day, I would buy a knife and one of the guys would be like, oh man, guns, especially when I was in the military. The guys that worked for me are like, man, that's a great knife. I was like, take it. I'll buy another one. Like, I make a lot more money than you do. I live in housing for free. Like, if I make a ton more money than you do. Here, take this one. I'll buy another one, right? Or I would buy them for them. Cold Steel, I had a bunch of Cold Steel folders. I tried out all their folders. That doesn't mean they're my favorite because I own almost none of those knives anymore. So, I'll try a cheap Cold Steel if you say so. I was wondering about them because they're so inexpensive. It depends on the knife. Like, Cold Steel has got a knife that they call, I can't remember the name of it. It's a little ring lock. It doesn't have a pocket clip. It's not a little, it's a big knife. They're like $10. It's like one of the best knives you can get at that price. It performs well above the price point. So I had a Spyderco Endura stainless steel that was the Saber grind. It looked a lot like my police model. And I gave that to a guy as a retirement gift. I bought that knife. He liked it so much. He was like, I was like, well, I can get you one. And he goes, no, I want that one. And he didn't think it was going to happen. And I gave it to him. I got it engraved with all his stuff for his retirement. And it was a knife I had carried for years. It was a kid that worked for me, and he'd been out. I had been out for years, and then he retired behind me. So the Kudu, there you go, the Cold Steel Kudu. So, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. This would be either the original Kunwu Django, which is a little bit smaller. Jesus Christ, can't find anything. It's the good bit smaller. Where the fuck did it go? There it is. Either this one, if you're like a smaller guy, got smaller hands, you want a smaller knife, this might be easier to control. Like I said with the PM2, this might be what you're looking for because it's really easy to control, really functional blade. You can use it for a lot of stuff. This is the larger one. I find it to be more up my alley because I'm a bigger guy. So, guys, I'm going to end it here before my wife comes home. I'm starting to get a good bit of pain in my shoulder. I have not taken all of my meds yet today because I wanted to do this. So I pushed it off because after I take the other 2 pills that are over there that are sitting, waiting, ready for me, I'm going to not be all that functional. So, Crabbles and I, your interest includes blades go beyond knives. and practical. Yes, I love knife throwing, hatchet throwing. I bought my buddy for his birthday and Christmas. It was combined. I combined the two. I bought him 2 cold steel competitive throwing hatchets because he has a throwing he has a knife throwing and hatchet throwing target in his backyard. And I'm like, so much perfect right there. So, guys, yeah, I'm gonna get off of here. Get this all cleaned up before my wife gets home. Take the rest of my meds. Probably watch Dude, Where's My Car again. So that's a great movie. The dog likes it. If you saw my short, the dog actually watched it. Check out the videos I did. I did a video about this knife. I've done a bunch of videos. Go back through the channel's back catalog, please. You've got a ton of stuff you can watch. Thanks for everybody that stopped by. I love all you guys. If you didn't drop a like, please do so. 90 likes, that's what I like to see. It pushes us up the algorithm and stuff like that. So I'm out. I will see you guys. I may do another live feed tomorrow. I've got some videos that are already pre-filmed for the week and things like that. Mark, I'm probably not going to get better till actually I have another shoulder surgery. So you may see some live feeds of me with a sling. I'm probably going to have another shoulder surgery, which means I'm going to be out of commission for a while. We may do some other types of filming, and I'll get somebody as a surrogate to hold the knives and things like that. You know, it just depends on which one of my friends I can talk into manipulating the knife so I can do the voiceover, you know? So, all right, guys. I love y'all. I'm out. Take it easy. It's been 2 hours anyway. I'll see you next time.